I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 98. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Hey everyone, welcome back for the third of a mini series I'm running about the Focus Forward framework. The third phase of the Focus Forward framework is what we're digging into today, which is all about honoring the plan. In the first week that we talked about this, I went over the first phase, which is knowing exactly what you're aiming for, being very specific about it. And I talked through, if you're a beginner, stay close to you, figure that out, what makes sense to aim for that's close to you. And if you're intermediate, then you can think a little further out. You can get a little further out on the timeline and pick something, like put a stake in the ground. That's what I'm shooting for. That's what I'm aiming for. And then if you're advanced, you can go much further out and think more complex through a plan in terms of what's the life you want to create, the lifestyle you want to have. What kind of money do you need to afford that? It's not just about money, but it does come down. That's a huge piece of it. So what kind of money do you need to create in order to have and afford that lifestyle? And then what does that mean the firm needs to do? And then you could think about the firm revenue and work backwards from that. So that's a simple way to think about how you are going to aim specifically. And then once you know exactly what you're shooting for, you have a number of some sort in your mind, then you can make a plan. I always say, as a law firm owner, I really think you should always be shooting for a revenue goal because everything trickles down from that. Your profit margin trickles down from that. Your take-home pay trickles down from that. So do that. I know that there are times where people are like, well, I don't care about the revenue. I just want the profit margin to increase. Okay, well, what are you saying? Like no more money needs to be brought in. You just need to be able to adjust expenses. Why not bring more money in? Sometimes every once in a while, there is a scenario where it doesn't make sense to grow the firm on any level in terms of revenue, but not often. And if that's you, that's you. And if you're clear, then you're clear. Listen, I cannot know what's best for you when I'm talking to a general audience, right? When I'm working one-on-one with someone, I can dig in and help them figure out what's best for them. But even if you want your profit to be a certain amount and you know what you want your profit margin to be in terms of percentage, then you know what your revenue goal should be in order to create that, right? So I just want you to encourage you to pick a revenue goal if you are in the intermediate or advanced phase of aiming, and then you can work backwards from that. And so I taught you last week how to think about reverse engineering down from the beginner level and then reverse engineering down from the intermediate level of aiming, and how to reverse engineer down from the advanced level of aiming for something really specific, a number. So now it's about honoring the plan. You have your plan. You have broken everything down so that in the next quarter, you have in front of you exactly what needs to happen, exactly the things that need to be accomplished. You broke down the projects that you need to get accomplished in order to see the numbers that you want to see. And you scheduled that stuff in your calendar. Now, here is where the rubber meets the road. This is where I think people have the least amount of excitement around this piece. And there's two ways to look at it. The first way to look at it is that this is actually the most fun piece because this is where you put your head down and you create the result. If you do not have this phase down, if you do not take the action you need to take, and you don't follow the plan, then you're not going to create the result. I think for me and for a lot of my clients, there's an element of a game to it where it's like, how well can I stay on track? Because I know exactly if I follow my plan, it should lead me to my goal. So let's see what we're made of here, right? And there could be some fun in that. Now, I want to say this, just because there's a fun in that game doesn't mean it's easy. So I teach this stuff and there are days it's harder for me to stay the course. There's days that it's harder for me and sometimes it doesn't happen, right? This is not about perfection. It's about progress. But if you are committed to showing up for what you calendared towards this goal, then as good as done. It really is as simple as that. And I think that's why it's fun to think about it in this way, is because it's like, okay, this is where the rubber meets the road. I already did all the thinking. I know what I need to do. Now it's time to put my head down and do it. And when I do that, I can trust it's going to spit me out on the other side of creating something that maybe at one time I thought was impossible. So there is that fun element. That doesn't mean day to day is fun. That means day to day, your job is to stay the course and stay very conscious and awake to you as the human moving through it. So what do I mean by that? There is a concept of willpower that is very useful at certain points in our lives and in our days, chapters of life or a part of our day. I'm not against willpower, but it isn't a long-term solution for creating results. It is sort of like this idea of flaming up and flaming out. That's what happens with willpower most often with humans. Instead of using willpower, which is where you're just kind of bearing down and saying, okay, go, even though you don't feel like it, just go, 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 go. And you almost exhaust that resource. And there is going to be a point where you don't have it in you anymore to be able to just like clench down and go. So what I want to offer is that it's really important to stay very connected to yourself as you move through your plan. One really great way to do this is to start at the top of the day with some reminders to yourself. Like I have a Google Doc that I turn to consistently that has some statements on it that is how I choose to be, how I choose to show up, how I choose to operate. But if I don't look at that every day, it gets lost. And I start being not the best version of myself. The things that are most important for me to remember, I don't remember them unless I remind myself of them. And so I slowly start to shrink back into more of a default version of myself. So I would say at the top of the day, something that's really useful is to have somewhere, maybe it's a sticky on your computer, maybe it's an alarm on your phone with a message, but somewhere, something reminding you of who you are and what you're doing. Not the default version, not the version that decides to go have a snack instead of do what they said they were going to do. The version of you that's like, no, I create big results. I honor my plans. I have a few, maybe someday on the podcast, I'll share them, but I have things about what reminders will help me operate in the ways I would be really proud of. That's what matters. So you could sit down and create some reminders for yourself at the top of the day, or a reminder for yourself at the top of the day. And that sets the tone for the day. It's like you're self-coaching at the top of the day. And then as you go through the day and it's time to honor your calendar, you're going to show up for the calendar, and you should bank on for sure not wanting or feeling like doing the thing that you said you were going to do at the time you said you were going to do it. That's part of the game. That's part of the deal. And if you count on that, then it's not such a big deal. Then it's not, you don't need to try to escape it. It's like, oh yeah. I knew that this was going to feel this way. And so then your job is, let's say, Tuesday at 11 o'clock, you are going to sit down to make headway on something towards your goal. You have it planned specifically. There's something you're going to sit down and do. And Tuesday at 11 o'clock, and you do not feel like doing it. And even if you don't have that direct thought, there is this pull away, or a procrastination that is pulling you away from the thing you want to do. So maybe it's that all of a sudden you need to go to the bathroom. Maybe it's that you decide you want a snack. Oh, there's a really important phone call you forgot to make. Oh, you needed to research this thing and then you didn't research it. So now let's just do that real quick. It'll just take a minute. That kind of temptation that will happen in your brain, your job is to expect all of it. So you sit down at 11 and it's almost like, bring it on. All the temptations, all the urges to go do something different, bring it. And then you sit there and you experience the urges and you're like, because you just know it's your brain. It's what your brain does. You need to manage your brain. Don't let your brain run you. So in those moments, you expect that that's what happens, because it will. And you allow all the voices, all the things. You take a deep breath and you do the thing anyway. There's a different energy that you bring to this than just like where you're bearing down and you're just like, go, 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 go. Ignore your feelings, ignore all of it. That's not going to work because that's never going to go away. You're always going to have that fight. How about you just stop fighting it? And how about you actually sit and experience whatever it is that your brain does? And that's a part of the deal. And you let there be room for it. And you take a breath and you do the thing you said you were going to do anyway. It doesn't feel good. I think people think that, achieving their dreams feels great. No, but the reason that we do it is because when we do get to cross that finish line, whatever that finish line is that we set for ourselves, whatever it is that we are aiming for, it feels so good. It's delaying gratification in the moment instead of giving into instant gratification of doing what you feel like doing in the moment. It's delaying gratification, taking a breath and deliberately delaying that gratification, doing what doesn't feel awesome in the moment, but you're doing it anyway. And on the other side of it is pride. On the other side of it is results. On the other side of it, you've got yourself to a different place. You are creating a new normal for yourself through this. And there is nothing like delayed gratification, not just because it feels amazing, but also because it's insane the results you can create by delaying gratification. It's insane. Now, this is coming from someone who is notoriously terrible at delaying gratification. I've always been categorized as impulsive in my life. I've always been the one that just leaps towards big decisions. I have moved across the country a ridiculous number of times, which I never planned on. But that stuff doesn't scare me. The impulsive, like, yep, let's go. I have no idea how this is all going to work, and I'm all in. That's easy for me. The harder piece for me is what we're talking about right now, which is staying really committed to something and committed to something until I achieve it. It's like setting the end goal first and working and being very committed to that end goal doesn't come as naturally to me. It feels like people are either on one side of the fence or the other. What's natural to me is to just wing it. That is fine. And I love what I've created because of my courage with all of that. But when I look back over my life, and this is true for anyone I work with when we have these conversations, when I look back over my life, the things that I'm the most proud of, that were the most gratifying to achieve or create, were the things that took the daily commitment to show up that I didn't feel like doing. And I have like things I can point back to: running a marathon. I mean, that is like insane for me. When I went out to do that, that was the first time in my entire life as an adult that I did something and stayed the course and stayed so committed. And when I crossed that finish line, I wasn't a runner before then. When I crossed that finish line of the marathon, I was uncontrollably crying. And it was just things that I didn't think would ever be possible were possible because of the turtle steps that I committed to along the way. So I just want to say, when it comes to honoring your plan, that is important to remember, that it's turtle steps. Every day you take that turtle step and you're not going to feel like doing it. That's a part of the deal. But you're going to honor the plan that you put in motion, that you set into place. And there's going to be days where maybe you fell off or you didn't. Okay. Next day is a new opportunity to get back on that train. Take that next turtle step. And remember, always remember that when you show up to honor your plan, when you show up to honor your calendar, because your calendar is your plan to get there. So when you show up to honor your calendar, let your calendar be your boss, not your brain in the moment. And so when you show up and your calendar is your boss and 11 o'clock, your calendar says, do this thing. And your brain is going to be like, nope, there's other things actually, or, that's actually not as important anymore. You can focus on this other thing. You can get to that later. There's going to be all these justifications that happen. And your job is to take a breath, allow all of that to be there, and take the next step forward. So this is what it takes to honor your plan. And there's more to it, right? More than I can go into here. There's so many facets and tips and ways to think about how to best honor your plan. But that's what I do with people. That's what I work on with coaching. My coaching always comes back to one of the 3 phases of the Focus Forward framework. The coaching is either around aiming and aiming well and aiming specifically and knowing why you're aiming for what you're aiming. And then the planning phase, so making a really strong plan to get where you want to go and facilitating that process and helping law firm owners develop the muscle to be able to do that extremely well for themselves. And then honoring the plan. And honoring the plan is where I would say most of the weeks that I spend with people are focused on, because most of the time you should be focused on execution. Most of the time you should be honoring a plan that you put into place. There's a time and a place to aim. There's a time and a place to plan on how you're going to get there. But most of the time is actually honoring the plan. And there's a lot of hard things that come with honoring the plan. And that's where a lot of the coaching comes in. So this is my specialty, but it does not mean I'm perfect. No one I work with is perfect. The coaches that I have used in the past that I use today, they're not perfect, but it is a muscle that you strengthen, and it starts to get easier and easier and easier to delay the gratification in order to achieve what you really want to achieve instead of giving into what you want in the moment. All right, everybody. I hope that gives you a really good meat to chew on for how to honor your plan and some things to think about. If you want more on this, you can go back to the episodes that we did. I talk about this definitely in episodes, but there are some specific episodes from lessons learned from the sprinters that are named around honoring the plan. So you can go back to those, check those out, and to get more inspiration if you want it around this topic specifically. Well, now you have been through, over the last 3 episodes, the Focus Forward framework. You can apply it to anything that you want to create. And it doesn't matter if that means for your law firm. It doesn't matter if that means that you want to improve a relationship. It doesn't matter if that means you want to lose some weight or improve your health in a way. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you want to apply it to a home improvement project. You can apply this to anything. And I just so happen to apply it mostly with law firm owners on building their firms and building and creating the life that they want to create. And then they figure out, what does that mean the firm needs to look like? So I hope that you have a clearer picture of what it looks like to have a simple process to follow to achieve literally anything you want to achieve. There isn't an exception where this framework can't be used. So take these principles and really think through it for yourself. And if you want help and support and community towards applying this framework to the growth that you want to see for the firm and beyond, come to Mastery Group. You can go to velocitywork.com/join to learn more and enroll. And we would love to hit the ground running with you starting ASAP. All right, everybody, have a beautiful week. I'll see you here next Tuesday. Hey there. If you enjoyed this podcast, I highly recommend you come and check out Mastery Group. It is where owner attorneys come together to study this material, apply it, and thus create really big results for their firm and for their life. So come on over, velocitywork.com/join to get more information and get started. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.